Propp gets it up through on the near side to Poulin. Broken up and then taken by Propp. Through into the zone. He's on a breakaway. Look out. Short-handed. Score! 3 short-handed goals and a hat trick for Brian Propp.
We love talking hockey with this former Philadelphia Flyer every year or two. He is the franchise's second all-time leading goal scorer, and he's fourth all-time in points. It's the great Brian Propp. Hey, Propper, how are you?
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Great to see you. First thing, it was nearly 2 years ago, May of 2023, that the Flyers named Keith Jones, the team's president, and lifted the interim tag from Danny Briere, officially making him general manager. The team finished with 87 points last year and missed the playoffs and are currently on pace to finish actually a little worse this time around and again miss the playoffs. So should we still have faith in Jonesy and Briere to get this franchise turned around?
Yes, definitely, because they did a really good job changing it up with a couple of years ago. I know, unfortunately, last year they lost 7 at the end of the year. Otherwise, they might have got in the playoffs, and then like Washington got in last year. But you know, they're just trying to figure out a way to do. They need a little more scoring. But you know, the young guys, and so they're exciting to watch.
Well, one guy who's really brought a lot of excitement for Flyers fans this year is Matvei Michkov. As of Sunday, he was tied with Macklin Celebrini for the NHL lead in goals among rookies with 17 and third in points. What's your impression of this 20-year-old Russian?
Yeah, he has to learn because it's more games than he's used to. He has to get used to be more consistent, and it's tough because he doesn't speak English too well, so the coaches might have a little trouble with that. But there's other couple of Russians on the team that can help him. But I think it's for first year, it's different because it's a long season, and so he's still learning.
Well, Travis Konechny is having another good year. Owen Tippett, not bad. But yeah, does the team have enough guys who can score, as you said? Probably not.
Yeah, but they have to play good defense. But I like the way that they play because, like like the team is much faster and they force all the time. They make some mistakes, but they're tough to play against. And so as long as they do that, I know that all the better teams in the NHL force all the time and they're tough to play against. And so that's what the Flyers did the last couple of years. So I'm just I'm loving what they're doing. They're in their own end most of the time. And so that makes a difference too. They got more opportunities, but they just need somebody to snipe a little bit more.
Well, due to legal issues, the Flyers and goalie Carter Hart parted ways in early 2024. Is Sam Ersson a possible franchise goalie, or does that search for a great goaltender need to continue?
I think he's doing a really good job because like the other 2 goalies, they're kind of young and unexperienced. And so it just makes a difference. But Allison's been a really good goalie and consistent. He doesn't give up too much. He had a couple of shutouts. And so I like the way that they're putting him in the right way.
Well, Brian, it was nearly 10 years ago, this Labor Day weekend, in fact, since you suffered that devastating stroke. I know it's been a long road back. Heck, you had to relearn how to walk and talk. And last fall, with the help of Wayne Fish, you put out the book, Angel on My Wing. Now, I know there's some hockey talk in there, but also lots about that massive stroke and your recovery. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, so a lot of it is about my faith because my dad was a Lutheran minister. We grew up in a little town of 300 people called Neudorf. My dad preached in English and German every Sunday. And I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, all 13 months apart. So that's why we had our own hockey team. And so just easy in Saskatchewan, you just played hockey and went to school and a simple life, no phones, no TV, only had 2 channels. And of course, and then I did pretty good when I was young, 15, 16, and 17, and I made to the Flyers in 79, 80. And but my dad taught me how to play the right way. But it's a lot about the faith and a little bit of hockey, about my stroke and how I recovered from my stroke. There's lots of things on my book that give them hints to figure out a little different things, how I can do much better.
Well, tell us about that recovery. I mean, we've talked to you every year or so, over these last probably 8 years. We talked to you once before the stroke, and every time you sound a little bit better and better. I know it is a long road, as we said, but do you think you're what, 85% maybe?
90%, because the only thing
Nice.
that I have is my right fingers on the right side don't work, but I compensate that for, I can still play hockey. This last weekend I played three games in Florida, a charity golf hockey event, and so it was a little sore, but I still and I play golf every Thursday in Florida, so it just keeps me up. But yeah, so like the things that I've been doing, like especially my wife has a franchise called Prime IV Hydration and Wellness in Marlton. And so what I've done is I've done some drips called NA Day drips. Like it's pretty expensive, but you go 4 days in a row for 3.5 hour drips, and then it cleanses your whole system, and then it replaces the cells that you need in your body when you're younger. And so now every 3 months, I just maintain it with a drip for 3 hours. And then I notice that my swelling isn't that well. I'm talking much better. I'm thinking clearly. So that's one thing that I did that really made a difference. But with me, just slowing it down and talking with other people, I don't get confused as much as I used to. I still have aphasia, which means that the words don't come out the same way. But my book talks a lot about how I rehab it. And so like people, when they read it, it gives them hope to get better.
Brian, where can people find this book? Is it available everywhere?
It's on Amazon. It's all over, and then the publishers is in Chicago, and in Canada it's Indigo that they can order from there. But most people Amazon, because you get there pretty fast.
Hey, Brian, it's hard to believe it's been 31 years since you last played your last NHL game. How much has the game of hockey changed since the 1980s and early 90s?
Yeah, it's changed a lot because now, like the guys are much faster, the goalies are much bigger, and it's tough to score. You kind of dump it in and do a little bit different, but it's not as much fun as it used to be. Like we used to drink beer and tell stories and hang out with the people. Now, like I don't know if they're in good shape, but they don't really know what they're missing. The 80s and 90s was fun, but they make more money now, much faster. But still, it's so different because guys can play for 20, 25 years now because they get their points, and then but they don't make the playoffs, and they don't get touched as much. It's not as physical until you get into the playoffs.
Yep. Well, you played for some pretty strict coaches during your time with the Flyers in Pat Quinn and Mike Keenan. Great coaches, certainly, but they can wear on players, maybe. Is that happening right now, do you think, with John Tortorella?
Well, it's a young team. And so, like, I know, like I love Mike Keenan when he wanted to win every game, but he's tough on people. But that's how you learn. We had good teams in the 80s, like Mark Howe and Dave Poulin were great leaders, and Bob Clark, of course, great leaders. And so we learned how to control our own team. That way the coaches didn't have to do too much. But it's different because now the coaches are hired to be fired. But they're a young team, and so they have to listen. And so that's what I like about what they're doing. Like Jones and Briere are doing a really good job, and the coaches, just leave the coaches alone and let them do their own thing. And even if they don't make the playoffs this year, they'll get a couple of draft picks. I think they've got a lot lined up for this coming year already, 7 or 8, and so that could build a team pretty fast. But it's doing it the right way so that they have a chance in a year or two to get into the finals.
Hey, did you watch any of the recent Four Nations face-off, and particularly the 2 USA-Canada games? And what did you think?
I wasn't watching the first game, but I heard that there were some fights at the start.
Yeah.
It was with old-time hockey and competitive, even though you're playing on the same team. So somehow you get up for it. But it's Canada and US was a great game. I think that they're fast, and it was just the goalies played really well, and it could have gone any way. But having the best player in the world score at the end, he was frustrated throughout most of the game, but he got a chance and he capped it off with a goal.
Hey, Brian, I know you do a lot of stuff for charities. You're involved with a couple of charities, and you got some events coming up this spring. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so I run my own charity hockey event. I have 6 former alumni split up to 2 teams, and it's going to be benefit Headstrong Cancer in Philadelphia and New Jersey. And so, like I said, Aston Ice Rink. And if anybody wants, it's March 22nd. The game's from 1 to 3, and there's tickets available. So if they want to go to my brianpropp.com website, or my email is gaffaw26@comcast.net. If anybody wants to email me and see what it costs, and then do that. And then also I have my 3rd Avenue River Winds Stroke Center of University of Pennsylvania golf charity, May 12th, a day after Mother's Day. That's my 3rd year doing that. So I'll probably have 28 foursomes and play your own ball. And where you take the best drive and play your own ball from there. It raised like $35,000 for the Stroke Center last year. I'm hoping to raise a little bit more next year.
Well, Brian, let's change things up a great deal right now and talk about sleeping and snoring. First-time subjects here on Philly Pressbox Radio. Folks, fear not. Brian knew I was going to bring all this up, and we're going to get some help on the topic from another guest. She is the woman who has founded Cherry Hill Dental Excellence, whose last name I am not going to try to pronounce because I would definitely butcher it. I'm just going to call her Dr. A. So, yes. Hey, Doc, welcome, and tell us, what is your last name?
Afsharzand. Yeah, it's not too bad, but Dr. A is fine.
Good. I'm going to go with Dr. A to be safe.
Yes.
So, Doc, how did you connect with Brian Propp, and what is this anti-snoring procedure that you were able to treat him with?
We met at a networking event, and we were talking about, we have this Photona laser is a very unique machine that we use in our office for a variety of procedures. But one of the indications of using this laser is to treat snoring and mild sleep apnea. And we were talking at the event, I think Brian's wife was talking about he snores a lot. So I told him, come to the office and we will try to see if we can help you. And Brian, you can tell us your experience.
Yeah, so I went every 3 weeks. So like the laser from the throat and the tongue. So it was only about 45 minutes every time. But I noticed a big difference after I did the 3 sessions. So I don't snore as much as I did. So like my wife, Eileen, loves that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you're happy with it. And more importantly, is your wife, Eileen, happy about it? And clearly she is. So that's great to hear. The procedure is called night lays. And as Brian said, it's 3 one-dose treatments targeting the soft palate, the tongue, and underneath the tongue. Dr. A, what is the success rate with this? It's
about 80 to 85%. There could be other factors involved with snoring and sleep apnea, but if you, as we talked about it, the tissue relaxes as we age. And for what happens with the laser, what it does, it has a wavelength and targets the tissue in the back of the throat and kind of tightens the tissue. And the reason we snore is because the tissue relaxes, and as we breathe, it vibrates. So what it does is tightens that tissue in the back of the throat and helps with not snoring. It also a little bit with apnea. It does. I have had success with patients that do use CPAP machine, and they were actually be able to adjust how much positive air they get from the CPAP machine just from using the laser and tightening the tissue in the back of their throat.
I should mention there was a real nice piece about you guys in South Jersey Magazine last fall. Very informative right there. So check that out. You can just look up Brian Propp and Cherry Hill Dental, and you will find this. And that's where I got a lot of my background information. Let me ask, is this something that would typically be covered by insurance or not?
Unfortunately, not yet, but I'm hoping in the future they will cover, because it's very non-invasive. People go through a lot to try to prevent snoring and also apnea, such as using appliances to advance the lower jaw forward. And there have side effects associated with it, and not many people like the CPAP machine. So it's a very non-invasive way of treating the problem. And I'm hoping the insurance companies will recognize that and will help the patients pay for these procedures.
Dr. Ray, how can folks find out more about Night Lays and Cherry Hill Dental Excellence in general?
Yes, they can go to our website at cherryhilldentalexcellence.com. Also, our phone number, 856-428-2550. They can call the office and set up an appointment. We usually do a consultation appointment. We ask the patients that are interested to have a sleep study done, so we have a baseline of where we are with the sleep apnea and the degree, and it's only snoring, and we recommend the proper treatment at that point.
Brian, when exactly did you have this procedure last year?
Well, it was about a year and a half ago, and so but I'm due for the 6-month checkup again.
Yes, you need to come back.
Yes, definitely. In another month or two, I'll come back and visit you again. But yeah, it's pretty easy, and it just doesn't take too long. And actually, just so people know, it's not that really expensive. Like, even if they have to pay out of their own pocket, because it's really affordable.
Awesome. Well, Dr. A, I want to thank you for joining us. And I'm going to talk to Brian a minute or two more. But again, check out this woman and the procedure if you or your spouse has a little issue with sleeping and snoring at night.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Brian, let me ask you one more thing about the Flyers. The season is winding down. What do you do now over these, last couple of months of the season? Do you go all out and try to sneak into the playoffs, or do you just not worry about that yet and focus on next year?
I think what they're going to do is they're trying to build the team for the future. And so, like, if we were in better shape, like at where our standings are, we might look for another player. But I think that we're right there. Like, this conference is really tight. Like, everybody has a chance to get into playoffs. If you get on a roll run, then it makes a big difference because it's only like 5 points between 5 to 8, and so like that. So but I think that the Flyers are going to do it the right way. They're going to take their time. They got a couple of young guys that are playing really well, and they're getting experience. And so they just build on that. And then if they get into playoffs, you never know, because get a hot goalie, and then you have a chance to win a Stanley Cup.
Hey, Brian, you're going to be honored in another Hall of Fame very soon. You should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, for crying out loud. You're in the Flyers Hall of Fame, and now you're going into another hall in the near future. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm getting inducted into the Brandon Wheat Kings Hall of Fame March 12th. And so I'm excited for that, because it's only the second year that they've been doing it. All those years in Brandon, like they just started it a couple of years ago, Hall of Fame. So I'm very excited to be part of there.
And folks, don't forget to check out Brian Propp's book. He wrote it with Wayne Fish, Angel on My Wing. I can't wait to get a copy myself and read it, because I know it's going to be a fantastic story. It's been out about 3 months, and I got to get my hands on one of those. So, Brian Propp, thank you for joining us once again on Philly Pressbox Radio. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.